Good morning, students. The next part, the second part and the final part of APJ Abdul Kalam's Strong Roots, that is in our syllabus, and it has been taken from his illustrious autobiography, Wings of Fire. So let's start. Let's have a going into this matter. My father could convey complex spiritual concepts in very simple, down-to-earth Tamil. He once told me, in his own time, in his own place, in what he really is, and the stage he has reached, good or bad. Every human being is a specific element within the whole of the manifest divine being. So why be afraid of difficulties, sufferings, and problems? When troubles come, try to understand the relevance of your sufferings. Adversity always presents opportunities for introspection. Very important utterance, outstanding and enlightening utterance. My father could convey complex spiritual concepts in very simple, down-to-earth Tamil. This is one of the most important signs of a truly sagacious person. A man who is sagacious, a man who is wise, a man who has innate wisdom. He can only convey the concepts very difficult in very lucid language. This is a particular merit, a particular quality only such people have. In this context, we may be referring to Sri Ramakrishna, Lord Sri Ramakrishna, who was also able to convey complex spiritual concepts in a most lucid language. He once told me, in his own time, in his own place, in what he really is, and in the stage he has reached, good or bad, every human being is a specific element within the whole of the manifest divine being. Every human being, in his own time, in his own place, in his own time and his own place. All of us have a specific time. All of us have a specific lifespan. As for example, we belong to this 21st century. Here at present, we belong to 21st century. We did not belong to 18th century. We did not belong to 17th century. And we must not be belonging to 25th century. So we are here in the 21st century. We are a specific element in this cosmos. We are a specific element in this cosmos. It's very important. Whatever we are, we may be rich, we may be poor, we may be good looking, we may be bad looking, we may be men, we may be women, we may be educated, we may be illiterate, whatever. All of us have a specific position in this cosmos. All of us have a specific position in this cosmos. Even without a tiny ant, even without a tiny microbe, the entire scheme of the cosmos is incomplete. So we are important. Individually, I am important. Without myself, the cosmic scheme is incomplete. Without myself, the global setup is incomplete. So we feel honored in that sense that behind designing ourselves, the great creator who has created us has a specific plan. He has a specific plan with ourselves. I personally, you, all of us have a very important place and position individually in terms of the completion of the global scheme. Without us, the globe is incomplete. Without us, not only the globe, rather the entire universe is incomplete without us. And here we feel proud, we feel honored. And herein comes this question: why should we be afraid of difficulties, sufferings, and problems? We should not be afraid of difficulties, sufferings, and problems. There are no such people in the world who has no difficulty, who has no suffering, who has no problem. There is no such man in this world. All people have some sort of difficulty, some sort of suffering, and some sort of problems. All people have. Each and everybody has some sort of tension, anxiety, worries, pangs, and pains. Everybody has. But we should not be afraid of all those things. Rather, we should take them as ordeal. We should take them as test. We should take them as examination. Actually, the entire world is a room of examination. If we think deeper, If we have some insight into the matter, then we can very easily understand the entire place is a examination room. We are constantly under the examination, we are constantly going through an examination process. We have to compete, we have to face the ordeals that life itself puts in front of us. We should not be discouraged, we should not be afraid of all these things. Rather, we have to face it. We can't evade it, we have to face it. Until and unless we face those problems, until and unless we face those problems, we will feel demoralized, we will feel that we can't do anything. But we have great inner power within us. We have great inner power within us when we can shake all fears, when we can get rid of the inner problems, we can get rid of the inner fear psychosis, then we will be true heroes. And that sort of heroism we should inculcate. That sort of heroism we should imbibe. That's important. So why be afraid of difficulties, sufferings and problems? When troubles come, try to understand the relevance of your suffering. Troubles come, troubles will keep coming in our life. I have already discussed the matter. There is no such man in this world who has no trouble, who has no suffering. Each and everybody has some trouble. But when the troubles will come in our life, we have to try to understand the relevance of it. We have to try to understand the why the troubles are coming. We have to try to understand that thing. That's very important. Adversity always presents opportunities for introspection. Introspection is very important. Introspection means insight. Introspection means insight. That's very important. Here I would like to refer to a particular রবীন্দ্রসঙ্গীত। চোখের আলোয় দেখেছিলেম চোখের বাহিরে, অন্তরে আজ দেখবো যখন আলোক নাহিরে। কখনো কখনো আমাদের জীবনে এরকম সমস্যা আসে যখন সত্যিই মনে হয় সমস্ত আলো নিভে গেছে, কিন্তু আলো নিভে গেলেও দেখা যায় এই গভীর বার্তা আমরা রবীন্দ্রনাথের গানে পেয়েছি। Whenever there is darkness, darkness looms large, still we can see. And that seeing, that vision is very important, but that is not no biological vision, because this is no biological vision. This is a moral vision, a spiritual vision. That vision is very important. Even in darkness we can see. And that seeing is not outward, rather it is inward. We have to look into ourselves. That's important. We make so much journeys, we make so many journeys in different ways possible. But how many of us make journey inside our own heart? A journey into our own heart is very important. At least once a day, we should make this journey. We have to look into our own self. That's very important. And when that will come, when we will have introspection, when we will have insight, then only we can understand the relevance of our suffering, why we are suffering from. We should question us. We should question ourselves that is there any such man in this world who has evaded the grasp of suffering, who has evaded the claws of suffering? No. It has never happened. Not a single man is here in this world who has evaded the claws, the paws of suffering. No. It's not possible. So better, heroically, we should face it, and we should try to penetrate into the problem, and we have to try to solve the problem. When we will come off, when we will get rid of the fear, the inner fear, then we can be true hero. Those people are the heroic people who have no fear within, and only those people can really conquer the inner fear, those who have no dependence in that respect. We have to, at any cost, we have to try to shake off all sorts of dependencies. Why don't you say this to the people who come to you for help and advice? It's a very important question that APJ Abdul Kalam APJ Abdul Kalam asks his father. It's a very important question. Why don't you ask, or why don't you say, why don't you explain the way you are explaining right now in front of me? Why don't you explain the relevance of prayer to those people? Why don't you explain, or why don't you say these words to those people who come to you for getting your finger dipped into the bowl of water, or into the water that they carry? Why don't you say these things? He put his hands on my shoulders and looked straight into my eyes. For quite some time he said nothing, as if he was judging my capacity to comprehend his words. Then he answered in a low, deep voice. His answer filled me with a strange energy and enthusiasm. Whenever human beings find themselves alone, as a natural reaction, they start looking for company. So this is a very important message that APJ Abdul Kalam's father delivered to him, that whenever people start suffering, whenever people start suffering from different sorts of problems and ailments, as a natural reaction, they start looking for company. Looking for company. Company means the people. They start looking for the people, the company of whom they crave, the company of whom they earnestly desire. And at that time, it's better to stand by them. This is not the right time for explaining these ideas to them. Another time that may be done. But when they feel the necessity of somebody beside them, it's our duty to provide that company to them. Whenever human beings find themselves alone, as a natural reaction, they start looking for company. Whenever they are in trouble, they look for someone to help them. It's a very common matter. Whenever they reach an impasse, they look to someone to show them the way out. Impasse, it's very important. Impasse means a crucial point of our life from where seemingly there is no way out. That is called impasse. So such situations come in our life when we think that there is no way out. We can't get rid of this trouble. We can't get rid of this trauma. Such sort of impasse-like situations happen in our life, occur in our life. None of us are free from this thing, from these experiences. So whenever we reach an impasse and whenever we don't get to see any way out from that particular point, we need somebody who will blaze a trail. We need somebody who will show the path, who will guide us towards the exit. They look to someone to show them the way out. Every recurrent anguish, longing and desire finds its own special helper. For the people who come to me in distress, I am but a go-between in their effort to propitiate demonic forces with prayers and offerings. So what's my role? My role means my refers to Jainul Abidin, Abdul Kalam's father. What's the role of Jainul Abidin? He is confessing that he has no magical power in that respect. Rather, he just plays the role of a go-between. Go-between means, the mediator, the negotiator. He is just playing the role of a negotiator. He is just playing the role of a go-between. The man who is suffering from different sorts of ailments and what we call fate, the demonic force, and that's a demonic force. So I just try my level best through my prayer or with my prayer to propitiate the demonic force, that shapes the finale of a man, that shapes the destiny of a man. This is not a correct approach at all and should never be followed. He also gives a very important confession that this is not a correct approach. This is not a correct approach. Jainul Abidin himself does not go to such man, does not go to a man like himself whenever he will meet an experience of being in an impasse. No, he will never go. Because intrinsically he has no fear. Internally he has no fear. He has already got rid of those sort of fears. Clear? So therefore he has no necessity to go to them who will magically give him some solution. No, he will not go there. This is not a correct approach at all and should never be followed. One must understand the difference between a fear-ridden vision of destiny and the vision that enables us to seek the enemy of fulfillment within ourselves. Enemy of fulfillment within ourselves. It's a very important and a very significant concept. A pretty difficult too. I would like to refer to Swami Vivekananda in that respect. Swami Vivekananda told, what is education? Education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. Education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. So what is perfection? Perfection means what? Is there any such man in this world who knows all the things? Who knows all the things perfectly? No. There is no such man in this world who is well versed in all sorts of subjects. No. There is no such man in this world. What is perfection? Perfection means a synthesis between my own self and the cosmic self. The thing in the first lecture that I told, I referred to the Upanishadic doctrine of non-dualism. There is essentially no difference between human beings or myself and other people and other creatures. Between a cat and myself, there is no difference. Between a dog and myself, there is no difference. Between a man, another man, and myself, there is no difference. All of us are under an umbrella, common umbrella. All of us have a spiritual affinity. All of us have soul. My soul and a cat's soul, my soul and a dog's soul, my soul and a bird's soul, my soul and another man's soul are same. Soul has no religion, soul has no dichotomy, soul has no differences, soul has no discrepancies. All souls are equally pure, pristine, and all souls are coming from one absolute soul that we call God. So this is what we call perfection. And still, we can't feel it. We can't feel it. There are so many complications in our mind which always pose a hindrance in understanding this lofty concept, this lofty doctrine. We don't understand this. We can't understand this. We always feel a gap in between ourselves and others. We don't think others to be a part of our own entity. We don't do it. And that is the enemy of fulfillment. Those complications, those hazards, those things are referred to as the enemy of fulfillment in religious terminology, in philosophical terminology of Indian philosophy's concept. The terminology that is specific here is Maya. This is called Maya. Maya does not allow us to understand that all of us are basically coming from one soul, and my soul and a cat's soul have no essential difference in between. This is called Maya. Maya is the enemy of fulfillment. So this is important. What is religion? Religion does not mean a fear-ridden vision of destiny. No. Religion does not mean a fear-ridden vision of destiny. ধর্ম ভীরু এই কথাটি স্বামী বিবেকানন্দের অত্যন্ত অপছন্দের একটি কথা ছিল। তিনি বলতেন ধর্ম তেজা। ধর্মভীরু এই কথাটা আমরা অনেকেই একটা ভালো বিশেষণ হিসেবে প্রয়োগ করি অনেক সময়। তো অনেকের ক্ষেত্রে আমরা বলি তিনি অত্যন্ত ধর্মভীরু মানুষ। ধর্মভীরু মানুষ মানে যেন অত্যন্ত ভালো মানুষ না। স্বামী বিবেকানন্দ বলেন যে প্রকৃত ধর্ম যদি কেউ আচরণ করে তার জীবনে, তিনি কখনোই ভীরু হতে পারেন না। তিনি ধর্ম তেজা। He must not be coward, rather he must be outspoken. He must be outspoken in affirming what truth is. Clear? I remember my father starting his day at 4 a.m. by reading the namaz before dawn. After the namaz, he used to walk down to a small coconut grove we owned about 4 miles from our home. He would return with about a dozen coconuts tied together, thrown over his shoulder, and only then would he have his breakfast. This remained his routine even when he was in his late 60s. So, Jainul Abidin was a very industrious man, laborious man. He was philosophical. In mindset, he was philosophical, but physically he was also fit. Swami Vivekananda also once upon a time told that he dreams of that sort of man who will have a Vedantic brain with an Islamic body. That's important. The synthesis, the consonance between Vedantic brain and Islamic body is important. That will make a true personality. I have throughout my life tried to emulate my father in my own world. Yeah, one thing that I forget to discuss. Once upon a time, Swami Vivekananda told, or somebody say that Swami Vivekananda told that it's better to play football than to read the Gita. It is not casually spoken. The statement is not casually given. The statement is not was not given casually by Swami Vivekananda. What he wanted to mean is that if we don't have, or if we don't possess a strong built body, if we don't have a well built body, if we don't have the strength, physical strength, then we can't understand inner, I mean, energetic ideas, the strong ideas of the Gita. Gita is a powerhouse of energy. Gita is a powerhouse of energy. Not only Gita, rather almost all the religious scriptures. Almost all the religious scriptures have the same message. Love people, love God, love people. That's important. But this so simple a statement, love people or loving people, is not so easy to emulate. It's not an easy task to perform. It needs courage. It needs courage to love others. It needs courage. So that's important. I have throughout my life tried to emulate my father in my own world of science and technology. I have endeavored to understand the fundamental truths revealed to me by my father and feel convinced that there exists a divine power that can lift one up from confusion, misery, melancholy, and failure and guide one to one's true place. And once an individual severs his emotional and physical bond, he is on the road to freedom, happiness, and peace of mind. So I have throughout my life tried to emulate my father in my own world of science and technology. APJ Abdul Kalam's world was the world of science and technology, and his father was no scientist. His father was no technocrat. In spite of that, APJ Abdul Kalam always, as he imbibed the ideas of his father spiritually, and as the ideas were embossed in his inner recesses of his heart, he always emulated, he always tried to imitate the principles and the ideological doctrines that his father inculcated into his mind, cultivated into his mind. He always tried to emulate those ideas in his own zone of science and technology, though his father was no scientist, and he always believed that there is a divine power. He was a staunch believer in the presence of divinity, all pervading divinity. He believed that there is a divinity that shapes our destiny. There is a divinity that always makes us reach, that always guides us to our true place. And the divinity is benevolent. It has a very benign effect because it always lifts us up from all sorts of confusion, misery, melancholy, and failure. Because these things, confusion, misery, melancholy, and failure, these are the common experiences that all of us have. Sometimes we feel miserable, sometimes we feel melancholic, sometimes we face failure, sometimes we are in confusion, we feel confused. These experiences are totally common, quite common. In spite of that, if we pray to God, in that respect, such misery, such confusion, such melancholy, and such fiasco will be, non-existent. And once an individual severs his emotional and physical bond, he is on the road to freedom, happiness, and peace of mind. So this, severance is important. I referred to Maya. So we have to sever the bondage of Maya. And if we can do it, then we can understand what true freedom is, what true happiness is. One particular important thing is very important. To sever the bond of Maya does not mean to become cruel. No, rather to love, all the more dearly. To love all the more dearly. Once under the influence of Maya, we generally used to love all our near and dear ones, and after we get a severance from Maya, but if we can sever, we can disconnect ourselves from the chain of Maya, then we can love everybody around. That's very important. So it's not being cruel. It's not the question of being cruel. Rather, it's the question of being all the more soft-hearted. Thank you.